What is the universe? Who are we? Are we alone? Many theories can give reasonable answers to these questions. But will we be able to find a reliable answer for all of them? Here on Earth, for 2.5 million years, our ancient ancestors lived in caves. Maybe they've been there for thousands of years. But then suddenly everything changed. People have started to build huge monuments all over the planet, but how is this possible? And why did this instinct arise? Perhaps there were other extraterrestrial beings who taught them these things. Or did there exist? The way our ancestors saw these beings or considered them valuable was quite interesting. Perhaps they were much more advanced and they saw and worshipped them as a kind of gods. In fact, what happened in many cultures that lived on Earth was somehow written down, and today we are starting to learn about them one by one. But of course, we have difficulty believing. In fact, we have not yet managed to discover ourselves. But the work continues. The center of the human mind is considered the center of the world. So, in fact, in order to solve this mess, it is necessary to start from our mind first. So in fact, the center of the universe passes through information. This information, that is, consciousness, was considered the third eye in ancient cultures. Ancient aliens, of course, were included in this, and perhaps that's why these beings were not a threat to us. Maybe they were a threat. But somehow everything has changed. We are doing everything we can to help foreign scientists confirm these theories. Do we have enough evidence to lead us to believe that UFOs want to save our planet? They mysteriously continue to study the world and people, and this attracts the attention of aliens extraordinarily. Well, then why are they afraid that we will destroy what they helped us build, the world? And if they really are our friends, how can we explain the kidnappings that are happening around the world? Why are the signs that take us back and that we can characterize as phenomena starting to appear on Earth? The existence of UFOs, then the mysterious cases of the Bermuda Triangle. What's there is exactly in that area? There are official stories of all kinds of disappearances. And these were also reflected in official reports. Let's imagine that there is a small ocean point that we have discovered. Why is it that that point of the ocean is so different compared to others? Fortunately, many researchers and experts are continuing to work on these issues. Maybe we are surrounded for the moment, and maybe they are looking for planets with water in them, such as Earth. So did we exist thanks to the DNA manipulation of aliens or thanks to water? Or did a divine power send us from heaven to Earth? We may have been visited by technologically advanced beings in the distant past, perhaps we were just at the dawn of our evolution. Astronauts who came to us through space travel in ancient times, which according to some, what kind of films can these be? Our ancestors were very surprised when they saw spaceships emitting light and sound landing on the surface of our planet from the stars filling the sky and landing on them. And knowing them, they decided to worship them. They were in the sky, they were moving, and they were flying and landing on the ground. According to these moments, they must have come from heaven. On July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins were the Mero people who walked on the moon according to official records. And that's why our first thought was to understand how our civilization, which is at a basic level, looks from the outside. If we have succeeded in discovering a small satellite in space thanks to information, it seems possible that we can achieve more. Depending on this fate, perhaps aliens also discovered us. It also seems logical that one civilization or more civilizations visited our planet in the past, and in many sacred and ancient texts of the world, the story is usually always the same. The gods have come down from heaven. So they came to Earth from the sky. They had flaming chariots or light-emitting chariots, as Ezek said in his hand. It is useful to consider an ancient text such as the Bible in the book of Ezekiel. The prophet Ezekiel meticulously describes an encounter with the exalted beings who came down to Earth with incredible flying machines. And this holy book is included line by line in the Bible. The prophet Ezekiel is talking about a contact in exactly a technological sense. He is talking about advanced beings, creatures that emit divine shining light. He says that they appear as human-like beings. And the exact same description of a space shuttle or a missile launch that they described is the prophet Ezekiel. On the other hand, that they are flying and floating in the air, or even standing still. He describes that he has circular circles rotating within himself. And here technology is described in a natural sense. What did the prophet Ezekiel see? Let's remember line by line if you want. On the 5th day of the 4th month in the 30th year, when I was among those living in exile on the banks of the Kebar River, the heavens opened, I saw visions from God. Dec. In the 5th year of King Yoki's exile, on the 5th day of the month, he called to his son Ezekiel the seer on the banks of the river in the land of Kildan. The hand of the Lord was upon him there. I saw the hurricane blowing from the north coming with a huge cloud surrounded by a dazzling light, which started a fire. The middle of the fire resembled a glittering mine. In the middle of it, he heard 4 living creatures similar to humans. Each of them had 4 faces, 4 wings. His legs were straight. The feet of the feet looked like bows of feet and shone like polished bronze. There were human hands under the wings on all 4 sides of them. All 4 of them had faces, wings. Its wings touched each other and it was moving straight forward. It was not turning to the right and left as it was moving. Each creature had 4 faces. The 4 in front had a face similar to a human face, the 4 on the right had a lion face, the 4 on the left had an ox face, and the 4 in the back had an eagle face. Their faces were like this. His wings were spread upwards. The 2 wings of each creature touched the wings of the other creatures on the side. He was covering their bodies with both wings, each of them was moving straight forward. Wherever their spirits directed them, they were going there without deviating to the right and left. The appearance of living creatures was like burning eyes of fire or torches. The fire was moving in the midst of the creatures. It was radiating light and lightning was coming out of it. The creatures were going back and forth as fast as lightning flashes. As I was looking at these 4-faced creatures, I saw a wheel touching the ground next to each of them. The appearance and structure of the wheels were as follows. They shone like yellow rubies, and all 4 of them were similar to each other. Their appearance and construction were like an intertwined wheel. When he moved, he was moving without deviating from right to left towards one of the 4 directions that the creatures were looking at. The edge of the wheels was high and terrible. They were all filled with eyes all around, and when the living creatures moved, the wheels next to them also moved. As the creatures rose from the ground, the wheels rose with them. They were going wherever their spirits directed them. The wheels were also rising with them, because the soul of the creatures was on the wheels. When creatures move, they move too. When creatures stop, they stop too. When the creatures rose from the ground, they also rose. Because the spirit of the creatures was on the wheels, something bright and terrible, like a dome-like crystal, spread over the heads of living creatures. Under the dome, one of the wings was opened towards the wings of the other. He had 2 other proofs covering the cost of each, and I heard the sound the wings made when the wings moved. It was reminiscent of the screaming of rushing waters, the voice of the Almighty, the noise of an army. When they stopped, they were lowering their wings. As their wings were descending, a sound was heard from the dome above their heads. There was a wooden similar object made of navy blue stone on top of the dome above their heads. A human-like person was sitting on a wooden object high up. I saw that the upper part of the part that resembled me was shining like a mine full of fire from the waist down. It looked like a fire, and it was surrounded by a dazzling light. It looked like a rainbow formed between the clouds on a rainy day. It was Dec. The radiance that surrounds it. Such was the appearance of the event that resembled the glory of the Lord. As you can see, if we try to examine the narratives a little more deeply, we will see that the prophet Ezekiel made definitions And if we try to draw a shape according to the narratives, the visual you are seeing on the screen right now appears. A basic step towards understanding the truth of the truth is equivalent to a real depiction from far away. There are some drawings showing astronauts wearing helmets in some caves in Italy. In Utah, America, there are pedagoglifs of strange creatures with helmets on their heads wearing antennae on the other side of the world. There are identical drawings of these beings in Australia. They are drawn with a helmet and a halo around their heads. There is a question that we should probably ask ourselves. What exactly did our ancestors see? And why did they have to paint them on the cave walls like the drawings in this Guatemala city? There is a sculpture that eerily reminds us of a modern-day astronaut. Let's check it out. He has a kind of helmet mouthpiece and a processing similar to the control panel on his chest, and a respirator in his mouth. How did they manage to create such a thing? How could people have imagined this more than 1,500 years ago? This artifact was found in Colombia. It dates back approximately 2,000 years ago. And what does that look like to you? And of course, it looks like an airplane. Here's another one. Let's imagine that they made these two wings. But how could they have thought about the tailplane, which provides the main balance? How could they have drawn these aerodynamic elements? Where did they see this idea, or who thought it? Our ancient ancestors probably saw something like this flying in the sky. A completely different interesting work is being seen in a museum in Israel. You see a person sitting inside a spaceship wearing what looks like an astronaut's outfit. Well, even if we say that we thought it was imaginary up to this point, what do you see when you look at the back of this object? Of course, is a rear section with propellant engines. So this looks exactly like a rocket or a shuttle. And seriously aerodynamic, a figure that was revealed by adhering to the characteristics. Seriously, these people witnessed something and wanted to leave their evidence to us with simple means. Many of these ancient civilizations were quite distant from each other in time and space. How and for what purpose could the Mayans, Incas, Sumerians or Göbekli Tepe civilizations at one end of the world, the Indus Valley and the Indian regions, which are one of the common features of all of them, have made space-oriented drawings, structures, finds? And where does this similarity come from? Perhaps they were made because almost all of them had similar shocking experiences. They knew that we were part of a cosmic universe. The hierarchy of beings was somehow drawn and written on tablets. There is also legible evidence that can be found in ancient texts about these extraterrestrial visits. And also, many finds that have been obtained, such as countless rock paintings and stone inscriptions that can be found all over the world. All these old drawings and sculptures depict figures dressed in strange ways, wearing unusual headdresses. Somehow they saw these things, wrote, drew and carved. Strange beings who came to Earth millions of years ago and visited us, not so different from us. These are really worth 1,000 words. The most important example for proponents of ancient alien theories is the Mayan archaeological site located in Mexico. It was already a long ago abandoned place when it was discovered by the Spaniards. There was no one there. The Great Pyramids here contained a secret tomb deep in the earth and a very important sarcophagus, the tomb of the Balenque ruler. We're talking about the mysterious 2.5-meter tall Maya leader King Pakal, who died here in the 7th century. These drawings were not drawn in vain, but what could he be using here? In the engraving found on his grave, a man is sitting inside his capsule. It looks like he was controlling some things with his hand. This drawing is quite detailed, and they saw fit to draw it in some way for the next generation. It seems that King Pakal was not the only alien who once walked our world. The Mayans had a very advanced calendar and math system. Why were the Mayans so obsessed with the stars? Theirs was one of the most advanced ancient cultures ever, but something happened and the Mayans disappeared around 500 BC. Where did they go? Will they come back one day? The first Egyptians had to line up about 2.5 million limestone blocks to create the pyramids. And how did they achieve this? I think it is necessary to think about this question before. How did they find out about this? Why they needed it, and, of course, how they did it? This puzzle of the ancient world is a very complex process. However, in some cases there are huge blocks of stone that can be found in Peru, Mexico and ancient Egypt. In some cases there are huge blocks of bluish granite that can weigh thousands of tons. The question of how and why these ancient people dragged the blocks to stack on top of each other to create these huge structures is perhaps one of the simplest unanswered questions. The best known and most mysterious megalithic structure in the whole world is the Great Hidden Pyramids. The 3 pyramids in Egypt. It is believed that this engineering miracle was built over a period of 22 years. But for ancient alien theorists, these explanations are quite inadequate, and they think that they are just answers put forward so that people don't think and shut up, because in the simplest sense, it is impossible that the pyramids were built in 20 years. Modern engineers even today say that they cannot perform such a feat in such a short time. How could the structures planned inside the pyramids have been built so perfectly? The inside of the pyramids and tombs are surrounded by granite and marble. That's pretty obvious. Someone helped our ancient civilizations in Egypt in some way, and you know that we have many ancient finds around the world, especially related to the carving, drawing or shaping of rocks. Which pyramids are just one of them. Maybe the ancient civilizations were about shaping rocks. Maybe it's possible to think of it as a metaphysical tool today. It seems that they had a very different technological device. Eno is one of the prophets of old. Endo's books are referred to as apocryphal texts. For this reason, was there a connection between the figure of Endek and these extraterrestrial beings? It is written in the apocryphal scriptures, where he clearly stated that he met them. He ordered the most dense erecting for the pyramids. We can see it as a building that cannot be destroyed for thousands of years. Because of this type of narration, his writings pass apocryphally. But he was a prophet, and in fact what he said and wrote should have been closed to discussion. The ancient Egyptian pyramids clearly state that the pyramids were built by humans, but with the help of the gods, who are the guardians of the sky. It can be assumed that the pyramids were built by human hands, but with the help of extraterrestrial technology. In 1877, the writer and theologian Grand Premier, with the longest line of latitude at the very center of the entire land mass of the world, it shows that he stood at the intersection of the longest line of longitude. In addition, it is exactly aligned October with all 4 points of the compass. Although the compass was invented thousands of years later, how could such a fine and accurate proportion and intersection have been achieved? Do you think these are coincidences? The facts are always seen as clearly as possible. El Castillo discovered that twice a year in Mexico, on both the spring and autumn equinoxes, a sunbeam falls vertically down the Mayan pyramid stairs, creating a mysterious shadow. So the image of a giant snake crawling along the base of the pyramid stands out. The snake has been determined to be the Mayan god who is said to have created all life forms on Earth. Who do you think ordered the pyramid to be built in this way? We'll see. But why could he have ordered such a structure to be built, and why twice a year? It has been designed in such a way that the snake image here looks as if it is magical or mysterious. This pyramid works just like a calendar. He counts exactly 365 days. For a people who do not have a calendar, today may be the sign of the seasons, therefore the beginning of October and harvest. And it could also have meant life or death. And somehow the Mayan calendar came out. They wanted the local civilizations to live and develop somehow. But why around 600 years BC, the Mayans left their cities and crops and went to completely different geographies? Of course, it is doubtful that they left. They had disappeared. On the other hand, if we assume that aliens have been visiting the Earth for thousands of years, is it possible for us to find evidence of their existence outside of Earth? This face you see is located on the surface of Mars. And in terms of scale, we can say almost the same as the largest mountain in the world. And this is described in the Sumerian tablets written hundreds of thousands of years ago, where death was decided. Many scientists think that such evidence can be found on the Nazca Plain in the south of Peru. Is it possible that we see it as the remnants of space traffic that occurred here, probably in front of the eyes, strikingly similar to a modern airport? These shapes, which can only be seen from above, may probably have been drawn to indicate their route. If this is true, then deciphering what interplanetary travelers brought here or what they took away could be one of the fundamental questions. Alien decoy mail or correspondence or documents about UFOs are constantly being revealed between governments. Let's say that beings light years away from us have never really managed to visit us. But perhaps the inhabitants of a nearby world may have visited. But from which of the neighboring worlds? Is it possible that there is another planet that we don't know about? People who associate UFOs with Mars or Venus may have somehow found evidence of life forms on nearby planets. But we know that the conditions that exist on other planets in our solar system today make their existence unlikely. The oldest visitors on Earth came from a planet in our solar system. And the one who says this is the murder of the one who took it upon himself to solve the business of solving the Sumerian tablets and was somehow discredited after the results he achieved. He argues that the Sumerians, whose origins are unclear, definitely emerged with the presence of the Pure Ones. The first information about them dates back to 3500 BC. We can find answers to many questions about extraterrestrials. And we can think about it. It is possible to witness them in the ancient records of the Sumerians. Their civilization appeared about 6,000 years ago in the land we know today as Iraq. And it formed the basis of all major cultures, from Babylonian to Syrian culture. The Sumerians discovered writing and mathematics, the wheel, the oven, bricks, multi-story buildings, the monarchy, laws, astronomy and much more. Many cultures have struggled to develop over the centuries. But how the Sumerians had invented them in an instant, the Sumerians were aware of it. They had detailed concepts about the solar system thousands of years before modern astronomy was born. And these concepts are still used in a general sense. How is this possible? The Sumerians' knowledge of astronomy is incredible. Not only did they know about all the planets we know today, they were aware of even more. They recognized and even depicted them with their exact location and size. Copernicus was the first astronomer to prove that all the planets in our solar system revolve around the Sun. This was in 1543. But the Sumerians claimed the same thing 5,000 years ago. Another thing that is even more incredible, they described Uranus and Neptune as blue-green. Modern humans, on the other hand, were able to understand them only by close observation thanks to a space mission in 1986. It is clearly possible to say that all the advanced information came from Anunnaki. It literally means those who come to the world from the sky, Anunnakular. But where could these visitors have come from? Did the Sumerians leave any clues? Ancient Sumerian writings describe a planet orbiting the Sun in an oblique and long orbit compared to others. And it makes a complete orbit every 3,600 years. And they named this planet Nibiru. Apparently, Anunnaki came from this world. There is a group of scientists who call this planet Planet X today just to avoid attributing the existence of the Anunnaki. Thousands of years ago Nibiru came to the world. It was so close that the Anunnaki could reach the world with their special vehicles. And if there was a planet like this, wouldn't it pass near the Earth many times? Perhaps it was passing, and we were not aware of it. Gravitational problems caused by excessive approach could, of course, be considered natural disasters in the world. Perhaps this is why the deluge, which all the sacred books and Sumerian tablets write about, may have happened. The issue of bees helping us to move forward comes across as a very reasonable hypothesis. We can all be part of a cosmic science. Why would aliens be so willing and eager to help humanity progress? In fact, theories cannot answer such questions. Maybe we still haven't managed to cross a certain level of thought or spiritual level of visions. Thousands of years ago, it's possible that these mysterious space travelers wanted our race to survive. It could have happened for the same reason that we want our children to survive. For some reason we're stopping ourselves from thinking that maybe it was these beings who brought modern humans into existence. This theory is also written in the chapter on the creation of man in the Bible, which tells that the Watchers take the daughters of man as wives, and then have children from this union. Those who were born have become men of antiquity over the years. Are they talking about aliens? Maybe they came from heaven or fallen angels, so could they be the mothers who came from heaven? Have we managed to move forward with their help? Of course, time will give us the answers to these questions. Theories may be different, but one thing is for sure, we are not alone in this universe. And we've never been alone. And in the future we will never be alone.